So what happens when a government's deepest, darkest secrets are finally pried open? Well, today on The Explainer, we are diving deep into what members of Congress actually found when they stepped behind those infamous black bars of the Jeffrey Epstein files.
For years, right? The truth has just been buried under these black lines of reduction. So when lawmakers finally got into a secure room to see the files, you have to wonder, what did they really discover?
Their very first look at the material set off immediate alarms. It turns out the redacted names weren't just victims.
I mean, listen to this from Congressman Thomas Massie. He said, I saw names of at least 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated. Now, that was his immediate takeaway. It really suggested that the redactions weren't just there to protect victims, they were shielding potential perpetrators. But honestly, just getting to this little bit of truth was a massive ordeal. It uncovered a system that seemed, well, designed to block them, not to help them. Yeah, this was no open book. Congressman Jared Moskowitz described it as a total bureaucratic maze. Picture this, an empty floor in a Justice Department building, a super complex system, and get this, a 24-page manual just to figure out how to work the computers. And they were dealing with 2.7 million documents. That's how many they had to sift through. So without knowing the specific, batch number to search for, a full, proper review was basically impossible. And you see this huge gap between what the law is supposed to do and what lawmakers were actually seeing. I mean, the Epstein Files Transparency Act is super clear. You only withhold info to protect victims or active investigations. But the reality? Well, it felt like, in their words, intentional over-redaction. So here's the real kicker. Even in this so-called unredacted viewing, Congressman Khanna estimated that 70 to 80% of the information was still blacked out. The very documents that were supposed to give them answers were, for the most part, still a complete mystery. So what could they actually see? Well, the little bit of information that wasn't blacked out started to paint this really disturbing picture, one that was way, way bigger than just one man. Yeah, this was not some local operation. Congressman Moskowitz's conclusion was blunt, and frankly, it's chilling. He said the documents pointed to a global criminal enterprise. The files had these explicit details of this international network. We're talking co-conspirators, both men and women, who were sourcing girls from places like Paris, Russia, and the Czech Republic. And the communications, all captured in texts and emails, were just unbelievably callous, with these graphic references to dropping the child off. Okay, so as the sheer scale of this network was coming into focus, a really key player made a pretty surprising move. Epstein's convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, was about to jump into the picture in a very big way. So while she's under oath before a House committee, she pleads the fifth, right? Refuses to answer any questions. But then her lawyer makes this absolutely stunning public offer. The offer was pretty simple. She would talk, but only if she got her freedom back. Her lawyer said she'd speak fully and honestly, and could even clear the names of powerful people, but only if she was granted clemency, which is basically a pardon. It was a move one congressman immediately called a clear quid pro quo. And all of this brings us to this central fight here, right? It's the search for accountability inside a system that just seems to have all these layers of built-in protection. Maybe the biggest bombshell wasn't a name at all, but the process itself. Turns out the files Congress saw had already been redacted by the FBI before the Justice Department even got their hands on them. So the DOJ was basically showing Congress documents that someone else had already censored. This exchange with Congressman Khanna just reveals the whole bureaucratic shell game. When he asked the DOJ official why a document was blacked out, the answer he got was just stunning. The official told him that the Justice Department had no idea. They had received it that way and couldn't unredact it themselves. So now lawmakers are demanding a truly unredacted version of the files. But that fight is really just getting started. And it leaves all of us with a really fundamental question. In a system that is this protected, will the full truth and all the powerful names connected to it ever see the light of day?